When my wife was 6 months pregnant, we were thrilled to learn we were expecting a boy. We celebrated with a baby shower and made all the necessary preparations for our expanding family. With a 5-year-old son already in our lives, we planned to reuse some of his things for the new baby. On the day of labor, I stood by my wife's side. Having gone through the experience 5 years ago, I thought I knew what to expect. However, reflecting on my firstborn's growth, I had lingering doubts about whether he was truly mine. Despite these uncertainties, I was overjoyed when our second son was born. I had married my best friend at 29, and we had built a life together. She was 27 at the time, and our bond had grown since we first met in a park. After 5 years together, we conceived our first child soon after becoming intimate. At the time, suspicions of infidelity never crossed my mind. But as our first son grew, I couldn't ignore the fact that he didn't resemble me at all. His features were vastly different from mine, unlike my nieces and nephews. Even though my wife had family members who looked similar, he didn't resemble anyone from my side. Adding to my concerns was my wife's behavior. There were inconsistencies in her schedule, and she often went out without clear explanations. One particular incident stood out. She claimed she was visiting a friend in the hospital, but when I left work early to relieve the babysitter, I later discovered through social media that the friend was actually on vacation at the time. As I stood in the delivery room, holding my wife's hand while she endured the pain of labor, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The medical team guided her through the final stages, and then the baby's cry pierced the room. But when I laid eyes on him, confusion washed over me. Something didn't seem right. He looked like a mixed-race baby, and the stark differences hit me like a ton of bricks. I froze in disbelief. My wife's grip tightened around my palm, but I felt my world closing in. After the medical team left, I regained control of myself, but the need to confront her was overwhelming. However, she was exhausted from labor, so I walked out of the hospital, refusing to help her. I left her family to assist her and the baby, unable to bear being around her or even sign the birth certificate. Her family saw me as a terrible person, unaware of the truth, that she had been unfaithful. Shortly after, I decided to take a DNA test for my 5-year-old son. When I received the results, everything changed. I filed for separation from what had become a sham of a marriage and served my wife divorce papers while she was still recovering from childbirth. My mother and sister, who had helped her out of the hospital, turned on me. They called me a deadbeat and an irresponsible father, following me around the house and trying to provoke me into a reaction. I realized they wanted to incite violence so they could use it against me in the divorce process. Until that moment, I had been a devoted father to her son, loving him as my own. But now, seeing him filled me with resentment, not toward him, but toward the years I had wasted ignoring my instincts. People labeled me a monster for leaving him, but they didn't know the full story. I packed a few clothes and moved into an extended stay hotel, biding my time until I found an apartment. I left everything behind, even the furniture. I didn't want any reminders of my life with her. She didn't know where I was and repeatedly tried to guilt me into coming back. She even had our 5-year-old call me at odd hours, crying and begging for his daddy. It was a cruel manipulation tactic, designed to break me further. Despite her infidelity, she constantly accused me of tearing the family apart. Our mutual friends turned against me, calling me despicable for abandoning a child who, in their eyes, still deserved a father. I had to distance myself from most of them. My parents and siblings, who had bonded with the boy over the years, remained my only source of support. But even their understanding didn't erase the pain I felt. It was devastating to realize that, for many people, my feelings didn't seem to matter. They expected me to man up and continue playing a role that wasn't mine. The DNA test had proven the truth, yet I was still being pressured to be a father to a child conceived through my wife's betrayal. It was an unbearable weight. I had truly loved that child, but my wife's deception had poisoned everything. As I pursued disestablishment of paternity, the emotional toll was immense. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, it was too much to bear. While I loved the boy and knew he was innocent in all this, I couldn't keep living a lie. More than anything, I questioned why my wife wasn't searching for his biological father. She knew who he was, yet she clung to me, pushing for child support instead. My lawyer told me there was a good chance I wouldn't have to pay, but the uncertainty weighed on me. Even if I wasn't financially obligated, I feared she would continue using the child as a pawn against me. This was never about abandoning an innocent child. It was about reclaiming my life from the deception that had stolen years from me. Moving forward was the only option. The pain and emotional trauma would never fully heal, but I couldn't keep living in the shadow of a colossal mistake. Paternity fraud is a deeply painful and complex issue, one that many men face with little legal protection. Courts often prioritize the child's welfare over the rights of the deceived father, leaving many feeling disposable. Relationships are built on trust, and when that trust is shattered, individuals should have the right to choose their own path. Despite everything, I don't harbor resentment toward the boy. But every time I see him, I am reminded of the years of betrayal. My marriage was built on lies, and that is a reality I can no longer endure. Moving forward is the only choice I have.